Just about to record MK. Beautiful sunset. You can see all the colors in the cloud deck up here. Ooh, how about that? That's pretty cool, eh? And all the way over behind the tree and everything, over there by the mountain. You see the colors over there too. How about that? That's pretty cute.
Sky howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
Welcome back. Once again, we have the amazing MK Davis. And before we get started on this episode, give him a second here to do a victory lap for his unexpected win in the 2024 Field Researcher of the Year Award. Here's the 2024 Biggie Award winner right here, as nominated and voted on by you, the fans. So congratulations, MK.
Well, it certainly is an honor. I appreciate it. It's sometimes it's the research business can get very frustrating, and sometimes it's a lot of blind alleys and rabbit holes and the like, and it feels good to get a vote like that. Where so many people voted for you. It's I'm just shy of 70 years old, so it's an especially an honor, at my age, to garner that kind of confidence, and people have in you, and I hope they enjoy my shows here with you.
So yeah, this episode, MK is taking us to go in search of some swamp monsters, and he's been there more than once, and he's got a couple folks with him, including one pretty well-known one. So with that, take it away, MK.
All right. Well, the name of this place is Sky Lake. It's an old. I hate to use the term Oxbow Lake because it's prehistoric. It goes back to a time when the Ohio River system flowed down through here, and it's a wide, shallow lake that is surrounded by lowland that made it almost impossible to get all these big cypress logs out. So it didn't get mind of its logs. And the people that owned it, they tried to will it to their children. The children didn't want it. And so they didn't know what to do. They said, if I sell it, somebody's going to come in there and cut down these ancient trees. And I'm telling you what they told me. So they contacted the state and offered to let the state have it for a little of nothing if they promised not to cut the trees down. So they made kind of I hate to say a state park, but maybe more or less that. They built a boardwalk out in there into some of those large trees out there. You'll see how big they are. Some of them were 1,500 years old, maybe older than that. So we're looking at the way things were a mighty long time ago. And so if there was a place for something prehistoric to be hiding, Sky Lake's probably a good candidate for that.
Yeah, just some of the pictures are, absolutely stunning. These trees are really gigantic, and they must be some of the oldest and largest trees, especially in the southeast part of the U.S.
Yeah, they are. The big trees out there are like first cousins to the giant sequoias. It's a type of sequoia, the ball cypress, and if they don't, if they're in water, they tend not to get as big around. They'll kind of bell out at the bottom, but then quickly turn thinner. And but if they are in dry, they tend not to get thick. They remain thin all the way up. And so, but if you get one in just the right amount of water, which is what Sky Lake has, it's a shallow lake. These things are huge all the way up. The trunks are just gigantic, and they grow these big cypress knees that are taller than a person.
Wow.
Long time ago that these trees started out, and there's good chance that maybe there might be some cryptids and some animals that formerly considered extinct or nearly extinct might be living there due to the fact that they've been undisturbed. We've heard some strange vocalizations out there. You're going to have some of those. I don't know what they were. I still don't know what they were. We had a person come out on that boardwalk. He heard them, and it scared the daylights out of him. But haven't heard them since. These things were bellowing. I've heard alligators bellow. It wasn't an alligator. It wasn't anything like that. It was kind of a lutey sound, melodic. Some of them were very deep bass, and others were, more treble. And they would go back and forth between each other.
Is that a response? Hey, Daddy, you got good timing. Is that a response? Hey, Daddy, you got good timing. You hear that? Oh, yeah. You hear that big boy? Holy mackerel. Did you get it? I hope I did. That's awesome. I got that one too. I should have got that.
calling out to each other. My friend and I talked to a man out there who told us that he'd seen two Black Panthers, and he showed us where he saw them at. Across the highway over there and along the side of the tree line. And we were talking to another man about some what he called a chupacabra that had come up in his backyard. He didn't live too far from Sky Lake, and then we asked him about Sky Lake, and I have him on video. He says, he says there's some strange stuff goes on out there at Sky Lake, and he wouldn't elaborate on it. Of course, now we found some stuff of our own. We found some footprints. We found some structures that were really odd. My first thought was maybe a beaver built them, but it was on dry ground. And you could see it had up inside of it was hollowed out, like you could crawl up in there and lay down.
Plus, it doesn't look anything like a beaver lodge.
Oh, yeah, you've seen it, so... It didn't strike me as no beaver either, but...
Nope, we got beavers up here. They make beaver lodges. That's not a beaver lodge.
And then eventually something there got a plank board that he tore off the side of a cypress tree and wedged it on top of these cypress knees about the right height to sit on and made a little piece of furniture right there by that structure.
Yeah, I got to admit, just from the look of it, it's pretty damn suspicious. And somebody put it together, whether it was a human or whatever, but does not look natural at all. Did you find any other traces around there, or tracks, or hair, or anything?
No, we found footprints though, bare footprints. And
that counts as a track.
Yeah, that's deep, maybe 3.5, 4 inches deep.
Battery though. I must have put battery's gone. I left the only good battery I had in my... All right. rock it back and forth, go up from this angle, over this angle. Come back up like this, and go like this.
You know, it's just probably not likely to be a person walking around out there, since it's, you know, it's a swamp. It's got a host. You can get stuck in the foot with thorns, or you know, people just don't usually do that. You know, I took some video and some pictures of them. To say that we've actually seen, no. Oh, I haven't seen it. I had that vocalizations that really outstanding, but I can't swear by that either.
You've been there twice now. Was that the vocalizations the first time or the second time?
No, I've been there many times.
Well, many times. Okay.
Yeah.
When did the vocalizations happen?
They happened. I'd have to look at the file to make sure I got it right, but it's been about 3 or 4 years ago. And we just happened. It was in the spring of the year, and the area down below the boardwalk had about 6 or 8 inches of water, and this is coming from in the direction of that structure. But it was so remarkable. The bass was so deep. It was like, oh, it's just you could feel it in your ears, in your eardrum, you know, the pulsing. And then something answered it, not in bass, but in a higher tone, but the same voice. And it would just back and forth like that at each other. And I was able to get that on video and audio.
All right, let's check that out.
Is that a response?
Hey, Daddy, you got good timing.
Is that a response?
Hey, Daddy, you got.
And we're back. Yeah, that's some pretty interesting audio there. It's not like something you usually hear in the woods or anything.
No, the people that were out there, besides us, were very, very perplexed and somewhat shook up.
Well, who all was there at the time that you recorded that?
There was a couple of more people who had walked out on the boardwalk.
Okay, so not somebody that you were with, but just there was people there.
Yeah, there were a couple of people there just to see the big trees.
Right.
The giant trees.
Not so much for the creepy vocals, just there for the big trees.
Well, they got there in time to hear the creepy vocals.
And what was their take on it?
What the? He obviously hadn't heard anything like that either.
Mysterious.
Yeah, very mysterious. So you got to remember, you're like Jurassic Park. You know,
right.
That place is old. Who knows what's living in that place?
Ancient. Well, yeah. You know, some of the trees there, basically 2-3 times as old as the modern colonization of North America. That tells you it's pretty old.
Yeah. They, I've seen the old ivory bill woodpecker holes. You know, the ivory bill. They say it's extinct now. I don't know if I agree with that, but you can see the old holes. They make them a certain way, you know, with the oblong opening, and you can see them up there high up the tree. They're probably hundreds of years old. You know, back when the ivory bill was more common. There may be some ivory bills there. It's not very far from where the last ivory bill was seen. If you just ride around about 5 miles from there, they have an Indian mound, and it was the Poverty Point culture. And to give you an idea, the Poverty Point, Louisiana, that's where they got the name. The same people, they said these people were among the oldest civilized tribes in North America. That was right across the river in Louisiana, and there's a place there called the Tensas Wilderness Area. That's where the last ivory bill was seen.
So these are on opposite sides of a flowage or river on opposite borders of states. Okay.
They're just right across the river from each other. Nothing is for an ivory bill. The river is no barrier.
Right. Well, this is kind of similar to what they got going up in northern Minnesota, where they've got the Boundary Waters canoe area, which is gigantic, and it goes all the way up to the Canadian border. And then the north side of the Canadian border, it's the Quetico canoe area. So it's not like, oh, there's civilization here. No, there's more gigantic wilderness area on the other side of the border too.
I'm glad that some places escaped destruction. You know, back in the day when it was hard to keep that from happening. They managed to not get destroyed. Now, I also I don't know if you're going to look at the photos of the Delta National Forest that had all the breaks in the tree limbs. Is that for another time, or can
no? Let's cover all that right now. Get all that.
Yeah, that's not too far away from there. But it was a really interesting circumstances there, where I think we counted 167 limb breaks, and it wasn't with wind, because they were, some of them pointed at each other and some pointed away from each other. You know, it was just snapped with a real sharp snap, you know, a bend in it.
Mm-hmm.
What you call a short radius.
Twist snaps are the best tells, because then you've got to actually have a hand on it and go.
Yeah, I looked for in case there was bears, if I could find any claw marks, you know, on them. I didn't find any claw marks, but there are bears in there. I've got a footprint of a bear that they came from there, as a matter of fact. Hold on here. That thing is overexposed, isn't it? Yeah. Oh well. That's my bear track.
That's a pretty good sized bear for down there.
Yeah, it is. He was hanging around that same area. My first thought was maybe he did it, but there's nothing to say that it was a bear. I had the distinguished guest to go with me, Igor Burtsev.
And happy belated 85th birthday to Igor.
Good for Igor. May he have many more.
Do what? Maybe bend trees. Just bend.
I want to see if I can see if there's any bear claw marks. And I just don't see any. Here, but something has chosen this place to wreak havoc on.
Hello, go. Let's go back.
Yeah, we're okay. There's the road. Do what?
2, then 3, more. Maybe bend trees. Just bend. Very broken. Very broken tree. Look. And another one also. This.
Yeah, I see it. See, it's not that old. It's still green out on the end.
And this is not dark. Just
A little bit.
not long ago.
That one.
And another one is old broken. Oh yes, look, this one is before.
Yeah, it's older.
This is older,
Older.
broken before, and that one is very fresh, just broken. A few days.
There's one snap right here.
Another one.
Another one bent over right
Oh,
there.
yes, that's right. A lot of signs. This one, man, that's it. Let us look. Where is it? Look, if there were here, there are not seen the handprint or something, signs of hand. If it was broken with sign, it was hand.
This hole is full of fish. It's drying out and fish are trapped in here from the flood. The dead one right there. I heard something pop over there. There could be a bear or anything that eats fish hanging out around this hole.
Amen.
The great guy.
Eurasia's greatest Bigfoot, Sasquatch, mink, Yeti, wildman researcher.
That the word mink scares me. I think I'd never heard that word before until I started reading about the Dyatlov Pass
Oh,
incident.
yeah.
They were saying they thought it was a mink. You know, to me,
Yeah.
a mink was like a little weasel.
Yeah, M-I-N-K, that's a little weasel. M-E-N-K, that's a big nasty Yeti.
You know, you'd rather have the MI.
Yeah, we got them up here. They're kind of cute. You don't want the M-E-N-K ones, though. No.
No. I don't know what to really think about that because, you know, it's so surrounded in mystery. And they act like they were kind of standoffish about, you know, what had gone on, what had happened down there. They didn't really want to talk about it. Even Igor doesn't like talking about it.
Now, there could be a reason that their present leader over there opened up another investigation on it just like a couple years ago. Because, like, he didn't believe the story that came out either.
You look at the look on their faces, you know, their death look.
Yep. And other peculiarities, but let's not get sidetracked on that too much. So you're in this amazing, notorious area with the eminent Dr. Igor Burtsev with you. You're finding snaps all over the place. I suppose he's like giving you the kid in the candy store reaction at that point.
Well, yeah. Actually, he was whistling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was going from tree to tree, just whistling. And yeah, you know, you don't really. Igor's got such a long history that you know you don't. When he does something, you don't really know what's motivated or bringing it. You know why he's doing it, but it could be that that's something he's learned. You know that could attract him or could, you know, get a response or something. You know, I just kind of stayed quiet and let him look. And when finally we found this really large tree that had been just snapped off, and I said, "What do you think did this, Igor?" And he says, "Leishi. Leishi did it." And you look up Leishi, and it's really it's
the Eastern European forest spirit.
Scary.
Yeah,
It's
that's the green man of Eastern Europe, where everything is
it's
more
kind of
crabbier and dangerous.
a forest spirit /
Yep.
monster.
Protector of the woods.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's I don't think that him or me was ready to tackle a Lacey or a bear for that matter. But
Wow.
later on, I took Igor to Sky Lake, and he was just thrilled to see those big trees like that. They were so huge.
Yeah, we got some pictures when you were there with him. It was kind of a little floody, so you guys were walking around on the catwalk. They keep you out of the swamp water. But for people that don't really know that much about Igor Burtsev, he is probably the top dog Bigfoot researcher over there in Russia and Eurasia. He's got the longest track record. He was out doing field research before the Patterson Gimlin film was filmed. He was on the team of Russian scientists that actually reviewed that film when Dehinden brought it over there. So that's how far back he goes on all this stuff. Anything that's happening over there in Russia or something, video of Bigfoot, something like that, he's definitely on it. Usually he's got it all figured out right away.
He explained that to me. It used to be called hominids, but they changed. They call them hominins now with no D on the end.
Yeah.
And that means does not include us. If you say hominids, it's everything and us. But that's the reason for their having changed that, because they don't think that they are a modern man, a virgin.
No.
Yeah.
There are old-fashioned relatives that think technology is evil.
I won't argue with them about it. That's for sure.
It sure causes me a lot of extra stress that I don't like going through all the time.
I thought I'd rather kind of envious. Think about they got their life ain't all that bad. They don't have to put up with the complicated issues.
No. Yeah, their main issues are, like, where's the next meal coming from? Uh-oh, the weather's getting bad. I better get shelter. Okay.
Dumpster box.
Yeah, if you can't find anything else in the woods to eat, when does that ever happen? They're pretty much masters of doing that. So you guys were over at Delta, did you have find any tracks or anything over there, or just a lot of snaps and obvious evidence they were around?
Well, we found around one tree where they had worn the soil, the leaves and everything off into a big circle under the tree, all the way around the trunk of the tree. It looked like a Kentucky Derby.
Huh.
So, I figured that's where they went to get out of the weather, But I don't know whether it was a game they were playing or a ritual or what, but they seemed to want to make sure that all the trees got snapped. It was just so many of
them. Kelly Shaw, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, has one area that he found where they came into this aspen grove, and there was just, in this one particular grove, tons of these trees snapped off about 8 feet up and laying in different directions, and it wasn't wind damage, and they could no natural explanation for it. And outside of that one grove, there wasn't any damage to the trees outside of it, just that one grove. Something was going through there, snapping off all these trees about 8-9 feet up.
I think that the answer for why that's done is going to be somewhere in the spiritual realm. A tree is a living thing, and they're snapping off these trees real sharply, like it's like they're trying to. Well, I don't know if it kills the tree. I think it will when they're small. But when you snap it sharply, it makes a popping sound. Pow. I can show you some trees at Bluff Creek that were shattered when they were popped off, and I think that's similar to why they strike them with a stick. That they're waking up the spirit in the tree, or releasing the spirit in the tree, which would be a spiritual belief or a spiritual reason. And so that's just me, though. I mean, it's a theory.
Well, you never know. There seems to be some kind of weird connection between them and the trees themselves, too. And you've got, like people have seen them actually, they claim, walking into a tree and just disappearing. And there's a picture of the white lady and the Bigfoot from over in Germany, where there's some kind of a white lady looking ghost, and there's what looks to a Bigfoot either disappearing back into the tree or coming out of it, one or the other. But he's got like a scared look on his face, and the white lady's right there in front of him. And that was apparently a game cam picture as well. So some really weird stuff.
That's the side that people call woo.
Mm-hmm.
But woo is kind of non-descriptive. I think that it's more a tag that you put on something you don't understand, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible.
Woo is a term of disparagement, and yeah, so just say paranormal or supernormal or paranatural
or they refer to the spiritual side of things, but also the physical. So I respect that, and I try to keep an open mind.
Well, it's not like we have everything in physics figured out either, and a lot of the stuff in quantum physics and the other cutting edge physics, entanglement, which Einstein called a spooky interaction at a distance. That sounds like science fiction, but it's real. And so just because people are calling it woo doesn't mean it's not real, and there is an explanation for it. We just don't know what it is yet.
It's instantaneous, the entanglement thing.
Yeah. And that could be on the other side of the galaxy.
Right. I mean, it's whatever this one's doing, that one's doing.
Yeah.
And
do you ever wonder on the Star Trek show how they did subspace communication? They could talk to each other, and communication would be instantly light years away, and they could talk. Well, entanglement. There you go.
Yeah, the writers knew a little bit about it.
Or did they? Yeah, at that time there wasn't any science that said there was such a thing, other than Einstein's musings that there could be.
Yeah, well, we won't know this planet in 100 years, if good for good or bad. Anything could happen as we begin to understand those things.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, Native Americans have always been sensitive about trees, about just the random cutting down of trees in a sacred place. The Bluff Creek area was sacred, and they held hands and formed a human chain and refused to let the tree cutting equipment in. They were going to let it run over them. Now, that's how strongly they felt about it. Why? Because they saw those trees as more than just wood.
Right.
They saw them as an integral part of life.
Well, it makes you wonder, again, with what used to be considered woo, now partially at least backed up by modern science. You've got these great big connective structures of fungi, mycelium in the ground, in the soil, in the forest, and it's connecting all the root systems in the trees. So these trees could be, as they're getting older and older and older and older, and all of this fungus is connecting them up underground, the whole forest is connected like an internet. Well, what if each tree has got like a spark of intelligence to it, so they're all acting like, a cell in a brain, and the whole forest is all connected? Does it start having its own intelligence after a certain point?
That's interesting. Like synapses. Each one is a part of a larger uh, structure.
Yeah, it's part of a larger structure, just like a coral reef. It's all individual little corals, but it forms this, amazing thing. And it makes you wonder because of some of especially the legends about the really old forests. There's something about them, and people that are sensitive will tell you when they walk in, they can feel it, like the forest is watching them. And these really old forests that have never been cut down to the same places, lots of really spooky, weird legends come from. You don't usually get that with newer growth forests. Okay, so what is that? Are the forests just there for so long they start developing their own intelligence? They have their own like anima going on. All that connectivity is creating enough of an intelligence that the forest makes its own tulpa or something. I don't know.
Well, they have a forest over there on the foothills of Mount Fuji that they call the suicide forest.
Yeah.
People would go there and, in some kind of spiritual way, get motivated and kill themselves. And they say the forest did it to them. And so that's kind of like that. It had its own personality.
Yeah.
The entire group of trees.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about that because some forests, worldwide, and people know very well that there are certain forests that have really bad reputations. Why? How about the Black Forest in Germany? And there's still people go disappear in the Black Forest. Like practically every year, there's people that just go and don't come out again. What's up with that?
I don't know, but down through the eons of time, the general beliefs, and you see them over and over, woodwoses and things like that. Those beliefs still manifest.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the doctor's office a few years ago, and his chairs had a woodwose carved onto them. This is the modern age. Why would somebody go through the trouble of carving these intricate carvings of a woodwose? But woodwose is half spiritual, half physical.
Right. I'd like to have a chair with a wood was carved into it. That'd be cool. Speaking of the European wild man, I was just watching something with Tom Coburn from Trails in the Woods, Search for the European Wild Man. He's over in Germany. And he was talking about how his girlfriend works for the local town there. And she had been helping them go through some really, really old relics and try and decide what they needed to preserve and what was just trash and what needed to be photographed, then thrown in the trash, that sort of thing. And they found the oldest version that they know of the crest, like the flag of that town. And guess what's on it? A wilder man, der wilder man. There's a picture of the German Bigfoot, drawing of that. That's what was on there.
They had that over here as well, even before the colonies were formed. They had people that they considered to be supernatural types. One of them was called the man dog, and I'm not saying like dog man dog. It's man Doage, man dog. And all they did was deal in slavery. They would kidnap or buy people from the eastern tribes and take them out west or take them to the southeast and sell them to work in mines. And people were scared of them because they had the long extended head, skulls, and they considered them to be a spirit as well as a flesh and blood.
Yike.
And
What
they
ended
were
up
real.
happening to them? Yeah.
They disappeared. They just disappeared. They were kind of thinking maybe they were responsible for the disappearance of the colony at Roanoke
Ugh.
because they found those dare stones along a trace. We got the Natchez Trace. Well, there's a trace that goes from Augusta, Georgia, all the way to Roanoke Island, and they found them along that trace, and that's where they had a copper mine at the end of that trace, and they were selling. They would sell. If there was a lot of intertribal warfare, and if they could pick up, some people, buy them, they would take them down there and sell them. But or if they were just go to battle with them and take them as prisoners,
Yeah.
that's how they didn't grow corn.
Well, that could be a viable reason for where the Roanoke colonists went to, because there wasn't much there to defend them from anybody that just randomly showed up. Let's put it that way.
Right? They could just walked in there and took them all.
Yeah.
That had to be scare you half to death that somebody was big old tall craniums like that. We'll see if I can find something on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those cone-headed Nephilim-looking guys. How many toes and fingers did this tribe have exactly?
I don't know.
So how far is Delta from Sky Island?
Delta National Forest from Sky. It's probably maybe 25 miles.
Oh, geez, that's pretty close.
It says right here that Mandog refers to a Native American tribe in North Carolina identified by Jamestown settlers. Some scholars, like Emily Miller, propose that the Mandog were the Eno, also known as the Winoki, and may have been involved in the fate of some survivors of the lost colony of Roanoke. I'm getting chills right now because I think that's the answer.
That would be not entirely unexpected, but pretty creepy and kind of, par for the course for that time period in North America.
They didn't come from North Carolina. They got that wrong. They came from up in them copper areas of Minnesota and Michigan, and where the big copper mines are.
Right.
And they seasonally moved. As winter sets, they'd go to the East Coast, and then they'd pick up their wares, and then come back down to the Southeast, and then vice versa. When the seasons changed.
So they need slaves for the copper mines?
Yep.
Appease their Phoenician overlords.
Wow. I used to have a picture of one of the skulls.
If you can find it, send it along. We'll include it so everybody else can see it.
It would scare you to look at it. I don't like looking at it. It's scary.
Yeah, there used to be and still are some pretty creepy things on this continent that most people are unaware of.
It had the big eye sockets, great big eye sockets.
Yep.
I think they call these people moon-eyed people.
Mm-hmm.
Another name, if they needed another name.
Well, yeah, you always plenty of extra creepy names for something that's creepy. Make up more.
Man, you
Make
know
it more
they're
confusing.
Seasonally,
Yeah.
they're coming. They're coming. You know they're coming. So what do you do to keep yourself from being taken away? Go hide.
I don't know. Hide. Pit traps. There's very few problems that can't be solved by pit traps.
Pit traps? I don't know.
Oh God! So, what? Anything else that we needed to cover that we forgot?
Well, you saw the big bug, didn't you?
Oh yeah, tell the big bug story.
Now that big bug, we went over there. Me and a friend of mine from California. We went over there in February, and it was cold, 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 and flooded. And this gigantic bug, he was out walking around on the wooden rails of that boardwalk, and he looked like something from outer space. I've never seen anything like that before or since.
It's hard to tell how big he is just from the video. Can you guesstimate?
He was about maybe.
Well, yeah, that's big.
Yeah,
Whatever the heck he was.
he was big. I'd never seen a bug that large. I didn't even know what kind of bug. But a really big one.
Is it not moving?
Yeah. I got it on video now.
It's gonna be like a chicken, man. He's gonna come right at you.
All right, he's on my lens.
No.
Yes, he's crawling up on my camera. And I've got it all on video.
He's going up.
It's out of focus now.
He's going up towards your finger. Don't dump him in the water. Here, let's see if I can.
Dump him on you.
No,
He's giving me the eye.
I just, as long as it don't bite me or something, it's very slow. Let's see if we can do this.
So don't try to lose my camera.
He's coming towards your lens again.
I've got excellent video of this thing. It's like a real monster.
And that goes to show you the nature of the place, because it almost preserves the very old.
Well, yeah, there's a kind of northern Minnesota used to be covered with giant white pines, and there was a kind of like a northern tarantula, these giant white pine wolf spiders that lived in these huge pine trees. And there's only like a couple places in the state where they even exist anymore, where there's teeny stands of these pine trees, but it looks just, like a tarantula, except not quite as big and not very much smaller. Big wolf spiders.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. I just think that we know too much. We're all self-confident in how much we know, and we know it all, and we don't really even come close to that. We get surprised.
Yeah.
So, what's living out there in the woods? Whether there be a swamp monster or a reptile person, or who knows what lives in those, what you call those black water environments.
And you do get reports of weird things coming out of them. Again, every one of those little areas seems to have reports of people hearing, seeing weird things. And then you got some of them that are associated with specific, like Skateboard Swamp with the lizard man there. Other ones are just like generally weird things.
Call this Bigfoot that lives in Delta National. They call him the Red Man. Hunters and stuff gave him that name. And I was going to my endocrinologist, and I was talking to her what you call it, a nurse practitioner, and she was telling me about when we were discussing Bigfoot, because she had found out that I was interested in it. And when she told me just as seriously as a heart attack that her uncle had walked upon one in Delta National Forest on the backside of the woods, and that they stood face to face, and he turned around slowly and walked away. Not the
Wow.
Bigfoot, but him. Uh, and she says that he was serious as a heart attack. He was not a person to play around.
Did he give her a decent description? Was it red?
Red, yeah, red.
Red skin or just hair?
Red hair,
Oh, okay.
like orangutanish looking.
Yeah, like the Mayaka skunk ape picture that they got.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people that are sincere, and you can tell they're sincere. That there's no doubt in her mind that he saw that. You know, she knew him all of her life,
Right.
and so there was at least one there. And you know the story of it can't be just one.
Well, more than likely, there's more than one. Yeah, it'd be pretty odd if there was just one. I'm always amazed by people that when you say something about Bigfoot, they're like, "Oh, you saw Bigfoot?" And you're like, "Bigfoot? There's only one Bigfoot. He travels around the country and gets spotted constantly by people everywhere. It's only one Bigfoot, though, right?" Yeah. No.
Well, they need to come up with another term. It's probably not a term that really does the trick in describing the thing as a whole. I mean, it's got a big foot, all right.
Yeah.
It's
Proportionately large, everything else too, though.
yeah. It's really it's probably about the same proportions.
The tracks may be huge, but that's because the creature that's making the tracks is really huge. Those guys get big. That's why their feet are big. You got to hold all that weight up somehow. It's not like you got a 4-foot pygmy walking around with 20-inch tracks or something. That'd be a little bizarre looking.
Well, where do you think they hide out in the woods? That's so clever.
Well, places with giant trees, they climb up the trees, man. It's a great place to
I
hide.
saw this guy. He had a camera up in the tree. He climbed up the tree with his climbing tree stand, and he shined a light down that hollow. The tree was hollow, and you could see the top of a bear's head, and you could see a little a small bear in there with it. And nobody knew that bear was there from the outside. This guy had somehow discovered it, but he was a biologist.
Huh.
But the average person just walking in the woods, he said, "Man, you got bears in your woods?"
Nah.
I ain't never seen one. That's what they say sometimes at Honey Island. I've lived
Yeah.
here for 35 years, and I ain't never seen nothing like that. That's because they're pretty good at hiding.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and usually the guys saying this have, like glasses as thick as bottle bottoms and complaining about how they need to have cataract surgery done again. So, yeah, okay.
Well, that just it was a lesson for me when I saw the bear, because he put that flashlight in there. You could see him plainly.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how animals hide. Even large animals can hide. And the bear, they don't hibernate per se here, but they kind of lay up during the cold parts of the winter.
Right.
That's what that was doing, laying up.
Well, bears don't really go into a true hibernation. They just, take like really long naps, wake up occasionally, come out of the cave, maybe get a drink of water, take a dump, go back in, go to sleep again. There's some animals that actually true hibernation. They're like as if dead for months, and then they wake up again.
Well, a bear will eat a bunch of pine straw or roughage and make a gut plug.
Mm-hmm.
And it plugs up his gut so he don't poop or anything. During that time, he don't have to leave and go out in the cold out there somewhere and relieve himself.
And yet you see them do things like that. We got a picture on somebody's home security cam in their backyard of right here in Kalispell in January, outdoor temperature 12 below, friggin' gigantic grizzly walking across the yard in the middle of the night.
Well, there's nothing written in stone.
Yeah. And just because it's winter, don't be so 100% sure they're sleeping.
That's right. Even snakes. I've seen snakes come out on a kind of a warm day in the middle of the winter. They won't be just jumping around or anything, but they'll be out.
Yeah, they're warm enough to move around, and they'll come out and move around.
Yeah.
Well, today I had my little dragon out on the porch for a couple hours. It was barely warm enough for him to be out there. And it kept clouding over and getting colder. And then I just went, okay, you got to come back in again. But all he does is just flattens himself out, turns himself as dark as he can, and absorbs every bit of sun that he can get. He ain't moving around at all, too cold.
Well, when I got lost last year in Sky Lake, I was following this trail, and I kind of lost my way, and I kept saying, well, if I just keep following the lake, the edge of the lake, it's going to take me back around to where I came in at.
Oh.
That was wrong. And a good thing I had looked at a compass before I went in there. Finally, I nothing else works. I pull out the compass. And I said, I'm going to go back the way that compass pointed me in. I don't care what it looks like to me. I'm staying that course. And I eventually walked out of there. I was 2 or 3 miles from where I started. Down the road. I came out on the road. Somebody could give me a ride back.
Yike.
And that was like being lost in the Lost World?
Kind of jungly, huh?
Yeah. It was very much a jungle.
I've been lost quite a few times, but what I find disturbing is when you're in an area that you've been in like 5-6 times, you kind of basically got it memorized, and you walk in there and all of a sudden you're friggin' lost, and you're like, what the hell? I know where all these hills are, and that tree's this marker, and where the hell am I? How did I get lost? I've been in here a bunch of times already.
I had gotten to the point where I was thinking of maybe perhaps having to spend the night.
Uh-oh.
That didn't appeal to me very much. I got like that one other place, and that was in Death Valley. And me and old Don came out of there. It was dark 30. We just got lucky and got, how we found our way out of there? We went into this marsh, and I looked down and I saw a boot print. I said, I'm following the boot print because I know.
Hopefully they're not walking into Suicide Bay or something.
Right. So I followed the boot print, and we come out of there. It was really dark. And that place had Bigfoot prints. It was a flowing little creek with a marsh. You don't think of that Death Valley as having that, but it attracts a lot of things. This was in the winter.
Yeah.
And we found a long line of prints that came down a hill and then went out into the marsh.
Got toes, okay? You know that?
Yeah, I saw that.
That's a
Uh-huh. Just looking at this, it goes off in that mud right there.
Don says that he thinks there's a Spanish conquistador on a horse down at the bottom of that mud. You know, that stuff was about like oil. It was so thin. The mud that the marsh was growing in.
So almost quicksand, basically.
Well, if you broke through the crust, which was salt, you would instantly go under like this, right? Don went all the way up to his top of his leg, his thigh. And I had to pull him out of there. And he lost his hiking stick.
Well, it's a good thing he had somebody to pull him out of there. He might not have come back again.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That was nothing but a man trap. For sure. And we've got some bogs and stuff down here, but nothing that thin that you would go down that fast.
Yeah.
You couldn't swim in it. You couldn't swim your way out.
Thick and suctiony. That's why a lot of people disappear in northern Minnesota, because bogs everywhere.
Yeah, they
and there's plants growing on them, so you think that it's the ground until you step on it, and you go through the surface, and then you're gone.
I can, it's rolling.
Oh, here we go. I'm going to try to tear it off with my superior strength. Now come over here and feel how small this is. And maybe you can appreciate a little more about that Mississippi skunk ape shot up in Tunica County, and how he was ripping these planks off just like they were nothing and throwing them out in the water. This is hardly connected, but I couldn't tear it off. And I was putting all my 238 pounds against it. And he was just reaching with one arm and throwing it out in the water like that. Not likely a hoax. That's good.
Well, that's how they make fossils.
Yeah. There's plenty of them up there. Because you can't, you literally, you could be walking across a field and all the grass looks exactly the same, but you just walked off of the actual ground and onto a lake that's got floating vegetation on it. And if you keep going, it's going to get deeper and deeper beneath you. And if you break through that surface layer, bloop, you're gone.
What is it, like floating peat?
No, it's like you remember Land of 10,000 Lakes? Those lakes are very, very old. And they start growing, green slime grows across them. Then floating plants start growing on that. And then little other bigger plants start growing on that. And then bushes start growing on that. And then eventually you got enough of a floating layer, trees start growing on it. And I've been through areas with big trees before that you think are solid ground. They're not.
They're floating.
They're actually interleaving each other with their root system, and it's all interconnected. And there's a lake underneath you. And if you step through an area that's thin, bloop, and that happened to me, I went right up to my armpits. The only reason I didn't disappear and die, because I wasn't smart enough to have anybody with me, is when I started going down, I put both my arms out, and I grabbed roots on both sides and stopped myself from going completely through. And don't forget, if you go completely through, it ain't like being under ice or anything. You're not going to see any light. You're not going to know where the opening is that you just went through.
It's going to close up, probably.
You're enveloped in black muck. Yeah, you're enveloped in black muck. Your only hope is to go straight up or you're dead.
You ever wonder if we were even supposed to be on this planet?
We seem relatively ill-suited for a lot of environments.
It seems like everything on here will kill you.
Or wants to.
Yeah.
Expect, like a hummingbird to go flying and jab you in the eye or something. It's like, everything around here wants to kill me. All these animals don't like me and they don't want me here. Even the plants.
The plants.
It's like the ocean. The ocean doesn't want you in there. Every time you try and go in, it throws you back out again. It's like the ocean has bouncers. They're called waves. And if you get too far in the ocean, then one of the bad bouncers, called the riptide, drags you in and really works you over. Plus, everything in the ocean wants to eat it, too. I don't know why people want to go swimming in that thing.
Yeah, or you could go down there to the beach and then a tidal wave gets you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweeps you away.
And away you go. Well, according to the old Egyptian priest that was telling Solon about Atlantis, that's why when there's a big cataclysm and all the waves come rushing in the oceans all over the world, it tends to wipe out almost all of civilization. And even to this day, 90% of civilization is clustered around the edge of the oceans. Big wave hits, splat, civilization gone. And the people that are up in the mountains have to come back down and re-civilize everything again.
Well, I guess we have no choice but to put up with it. But it seems at times a little inhospitable.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
There's actually a gentleman that's an expert on catastrophism, Randall Carlson. I'm going to try and see if I can get a hold of him and have him on the show. And for guests that like biblical scholars and cryptids and all that sort of thing interconnected, I actually have scheduled to have Gary Wayne back on the show again. We're going to be talking about his new and second book, and more specifically about giants in the Holy Land and how they're all connected and their lineages. So for those of you that like the giant subject, you got that one to look forward to. It's the amazing Gary Wayne.
And it's I've learned a lot the last few years, which I thought that the giants were done away with by the flood, but they apparently were not. They went on to become the Anakim.
Yeah, I know. We thought we had gotten rid of them, but then, boop, Rephaim. Well, I think some of them either had inner tubes or water wings or something, so they managed to survive the flood. The rest of them all drowned. Some of them must have had swimming lessons prior to it. I don't know. But, yeah, Genesis 6, there were giants in the earth in those days and also after that. So that means, yeah, after the flood, there were still some of them left, but they weren't the Titanic big size jumbo giants that they had before the flood. They were the more pipsqueak size, only 15, 20 feet tall ones.
Yeah, Joshua and Caleb, they sent them as to spy out the land of Canaan, and they came back and they said they were people down there, the dwellers of which we are just grasshoppers to them.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah. They also said it was the land eats itself. What did they mean by that exactly?
I don't know.
Yeah, it meant the giants were eating the people that were their subjects. That's what they were talking about.
Oh, cannibalism.
Yeah.
See, well, with that we have enough in the Bible to gain salvation, and it's kind of an instruction book, but it don't tell us everything about the mind of God. Were there other people on the earth? Maybe. I think it mentions that Cain went to live with some other people in the land of Nod.
Yep. Got himself a wife there and stuff. So clearly there were, pre-Adamites, basically. There were other, and that's in the fossil record. Neanderthals, Denisovans, all that kind of stuff. They ain't us. They're pre-Adamites.
I like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we also know that we're, especially Northern Europeans, up to 3% of the DNA is from Neanderthal. So we were interbreeding with them at some point.
Not modern man, just man.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's still plenty of people walking around with Northern European bloodlines that have Neanderthal DNA.
Well, there was a giant living up there in north of Area 51, I think in the northern part of Area 51. Back when the government first bought the land, they sent people on horseback to try to make sure there was no one living on it. And they found this guy living on it, and they wrote it. This is the way they put it in the book. They said that we came upon an ancient miner, not an old prospector, but an ancient miner. That's the term they used. And he said he fought us with such ferocity that we decided to just leave him there.
Just flat out refusing to be evacuated.
Right. And what? Who is it that the government can't remove?
Yeah. If he's so ancient, how can he whoop all their butts?
Yeah, it's that's an odd way to term it. And obviously it was describing something extraordinary. They didn't want to mess with him. It's be like the Kandahar giant. It's more trouble than it's worth.
Right. Yeah. I know somebody else that was in country over there during the whole Afghanistan thing, and they were on a helicopter, one of three that were flying across this valley. And while they were flying across the valley, the people on the helicopter could look down and see below them there were two giants running across the valley, running away from the direction where the helicopters were going. And the person that was watching guesstimated they were running about 70, 75 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, how can you outrun one of them?
No. It just makes sense. I mean, you got the Bigfoot, 9-10 foot Bigfoot have been clocked going 45, 50 miles an hour. So you got a 15-foot tall giant, 70. Yeah, seems reasonable.
Well, all I can say is I hope they don't have a head-on with anybody.
Yeah, there's a reason they don't live up in the mountains in Afghanistan. They live in the valleys. The mountains are where the giants live. They stay away from there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That's why they have their hidden underground bases and stuff there, because they know none of the locals are going to go up there. That's where the giants live. Then you can Moab them. Maybe accidentally take out some giants along the way, too.
Yeah, I wonder if they didn't build that bomb just for that.
Yeah, it's great for busting up underground bunkers and stuff, and
Underground cave systems.
Exactly. Let's do the same thing with the cave system. Definitely wipe out everything within the immediate area of, half mile or so underground, if not more. All right. Well,
I assume that's probably a true story. I've never talked to anybody that was there or anything, but it's told as a true story.
Well, there does seem to be some people that were in country at the time that, were hearing about it while they were over there. So even if it is a rumor, it was spreading around, and there's other people who say, I never heard about that at all while I was over there. Well, yeah, so what? The military is compartmentalized. Maybe you weren't in the right part where you were going to hear about something like this.
Yeah, well, maybe not. Who's going to
Maybe
believe? Who's going to
the
believe?
more higher security clearance actors are the ones that we're going to be more liable to hear something about like that rather than Charlie sitting in a ditch being a grunt.
He run out of that thing, run out of that cave like a trapdoor spider.
Yeah.
Where's lunch?
Yeah, exactly. Well, according to one of the locals over there, they had been feeding that giant for a long, long time. And to keep him from coming down and pestering people, they would just drive some goats up to his cave and he'd eat the goats. And these military guys that didn't know what was in the cave went to investigate it, and, well, they interrupted him. So he ate them. And the second team that was better armed showed up looking for them. And again, they found Hungry Giant, and Hungry Giant came out and went, who are these idiots that keep interrupting me, and where's my goats? And then they shot him after he ran one of them through with a lance. Who are you guys and where are my goats? That's what the giant was yelling at him at the end of the day.
You don't see too many people clamoring to go back over there and look around, do you?
No, it's not heavily on anybody's to-do list as far as I know. But is there anything else on Delta or Sky Island that we didn't cover?
No, I think that's pretty much it. It's not I wouldn't call it a haven for Sasquatch. I'd say that it's got some in there. I don't have any doubt about that, but it's also got whatever a miasm or a swamp has in the way of the strange and the unusual.
Yeah, and the ancient forest aura thing that we were talking about earlier.
Right, the mysterious part of
it.
Miasm. It's hard to be the man about everything now. It's an awful big world out there.
Now, when it comes to giants, he's one of the guys that knows a lot about it and has done a lot of the research. And him and Tim Alberino and Steve Quayle and a bunch of the Tom Horn, all those other guys. But those guys haven't done doodly research on Bigfoot, so don't take anything they say on the subject serious because they're rookies.
What about giants? Have they made any progress?
They're all looking at giants past tense. They all think, there are no giants anymore and they're vanished from the earth, except for like Steve Quayle, who's, the forerunner always. I'm sure he's aware of the fact that, there's still giants around. There's just not very many of them. And I found a 31-inch track here in spring of 2023. So what made that? It's not a fossil.
Well, it's got to be a lonely life. Be the only giant around.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there's pretty much up here, there's probably one giant per mountain range. I don't think they're by themselves at all. We know several mountain ranges that have giant sightings. For anybody that's wondering what I'm referencing, go back to Giants in Montana from a few months ago. Watch that episode.
I didn't dream that they were such a thing as, the subject matter would be so diverse. When I first became interested in Bigfoot because of Patterson Fin, I thought that was pretty much it, and not true. There's a lot. The subject is spread wide. You can go down a lot of different directions.
Yes, indeed. And there's the mythology angle. There's the archive angle. There's the eyewitness reports angle, and that includes ancient ones and the ones all the way up to 5 minutes ago. All the hard evidence that's been gathered. DNA work by Melba Ketchum. And then all the native folklore and legends of how they tie that in with other cryptids and weird things. And it's a worldwide phenomenon. The Bigfoot thing is everywhere. The Bigfoot thing, the giant thing, and the little people. That's everywhere. everywhere on the planet.
You know, somebody told me that little people in Northern California ride on the backs of Pacific salamanders.
I can't imagine that being a very fast mode of transport.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you see what I mean? Who would have, when I got into Bigfooting, I would never have thought little people,
Yeah.
much less riding on the back of a salamander. I've seen a giant Pacific salamander and filmed it. I've seen one that was much larger and didn't get to film it. I've seen one about 3 feet long.
Holy crap, that's huge.
Yeah, it was in Bluff Creek.
That's like record size right there. That's big.
And then I filmed one in Notice Creek. I had my camera with me. I filmed it. It's about maybe a foot long.
Hmm.
And it was pretty fast, in spite of the fact the water was cold.
I guess he's gone. The salamander.
That was they're hard to find to film. Even small ones are rare.
All right. Assuming that you guys can hear me, end of show. Hope you all enjoyed it. Please return next week for more show. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Press the all notification bell, because otherwise you don't get notifications. Yeah, it's YouTube. It doesn't make any sense. And come find me over on Rumble, where there's no censorship. Yes, and I'm over there.
So make sure that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puckwudgie. And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee.